Podcaster and former ESPN contributor Pablo Torre is reporting that the Clippers circumvented the NBA salary cap by arranging a no-show job for Kawhi Leonard back in 2022.
When Steve Ballmer came and had that interview with Ramona Shelburne, he had plausible deniability.
Was there an exception made in terms of our relationship with aspiration? Absolutely not.
These revelations that came out today had substantially less plausible deniability.
The vice chairman of the Clippers made an independent decision to invest in aspiration 9 days before Kawhi Leonard got paid when no one else was getting paid.
How broad do your powers extend, as far as penalties you can assess to the Clippers, to Kawhi Leonard?
I have very broad powers in these situations.
So right now on ESPN.com, senior writer Baxter Holmes, he peels back the layers of the dealings between Kawhi Leonard, the Clippers, and aspiration. He also takes an in-depth look at Kawhi's Clippers tenure, and he joins us right here on NBA Today. Baxter, really, you detail in your story that this isn't the first time that the league has had questions about Kawhi Leonard, about his health, about his business dealings. But this one with aspiration, it is a little bit different. Why?
Yeah, certainly. A former Clippers staffer pointed out to me quite clearly that this is the first thing that they've dealt with that calls into the character of the owner, Steve Ballmer. Now, they've dealt with lawsuits, they've dealt with fines, they've dealt with other NBA investigations, but this is different because it goes all the way to the top of the organization. And then also, if you consider that the allegation of circumventing the cap, that's considered like, you know, a cardinal sin of the NBA. It's different than not being maybe transparent on injury reports or things like that. So that's how it's different.
So there's a lot in your story, but I think the crux maybe that viewers need to know is there are several sources, and you interview more than 24, who point to the fact that it may be time for, as they say, the Clippers to get out of the Kawhi business. That's what they said to you. Why? Where do things stand now?
Well, look, the Clippers are optimistic that if he can stay healthy, they're, excited about the coming season. But taking a step back, if you consider the huge investment that they made in him in the beginning, which has helped Oklahoma City build the dynasty in many ways, if you consider how many games that he's missed, if you consider all the off-court issues and drama, the current ongoing investigation that's playing out right now, a former staffer said to me, it's at some point Steve has to get out of the Kawhi Leonard business. Now, he's under contract for 2 more seasons, at the end of which he'd be 36. Obviously, he has extensive mileage and injury history. I don't know what happens to him after that point. People I talked to do said they expect him to play through this current contract. Beyond that, no one's quite sure.
Well, and when you think about the last time we saw Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers on the court, it was really exciting, I think, to see for a lot of Clippers fans, which makes this all the more complicated as the organization takes a look at how it's going to move forward here. I want to bring Brian Windhorst back into the conversation. Wendy, what does this actually look like, do you think, this season for Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers?
I don't think it's going to affect this season at all, other than being a distraction. I think if you're a Clipper fan, the one thing that you can take solace in is that the team looked very good at the end of last season. They finished the regular season 17-4. Everybody remembers that they were ahead in the series against the Nuggets 2-1 and were ahead in the final minute of Game 4 before the Aaron Gordon tip dunk at the very end of the game, which was one of the most remarkable plays in the playoffs that turned that entire series. And then in the second half of last season, after the All-Star break, Kawhi averaged almost 26.7 rebounds and shot 52%, and even continued to work out through mid-June because he felt so good and wanted to have his body take over. And as Baxter said, he is under contract for the next 2 seasons for $100 million. The Clippers may have made some mistakes in the past with the Kawhi Leonard situation, but they are stuck into it right now and actually feel like they're in a good place with the team and this roster changes that they've made. And that's what I think the message that you'll hear when they meet for training camp in 2 weeks.
Wendy, thank you. I want to bring Pau Gasol and our reporter Tim McMahon into this conversation as well. Pau, I'm going to start with you because you played with Kawhi for 2 seasons, right, in San Antonio with the Spurs. What insights did maybe you glean then that could have, foreshadowed what we're seeing now?
Yeah, I mean, Kawhi, when I played with him in San Antonio, obviously he was one of the greatest players in the league. He could make stuff happen in either end of the floor in an elite way. And that's, then the way he exited San Antonio was quite not ideal, and it created some issues, also around our season at the time. but apparently there were some differences that couldn't be solved, and he kind of, got his way out. Luckily for my brother and the Raptors, they benefited from that, you know, and they won a championship, and they were very happy about that. And I'm always obviously happy and I'm rooting for success. Here, the Clippers took a big gamble. It didn't quite pan out as they planned. I think when you look back, and I think you mentioned it on the article, a lot of GMs at the time, when he was a free agent, they would have gone all in also for Kawhi. And bringing Paul George at the time, who was also one of the top players in the league. So, it just didn't work out. Now they have to deal with reality and what's here, what's in front of them, and looking at what's best for the franchise going forward, whether it's, and at some point relationships end, in terms end. So Kawhi will be, just like any other player, will be moving on, and the Clippers have to deal with what's best for them, and they should be optimistic and positive going into a season. If you're not, you're already kind of fish dead in the water, right?
Yeah.
So that's it.
I think it's an important point that you made, though, that the Baxter outlined when you said that general managers around the league sort of note that at the time, particularly in the situation that the Clippers were in, where they were sort of trying to come out of this Donald Sterling era, it's a move that most teams would have made to get a player like Kawhi Leonard. All of this kind of brings the question, Tim, of, okay, what happens next? What challenges will the Clippers face as they try to settle all of this and perhaps even move on, if that is what comes to fruition?
Well, yeah, and look, the Clippers sold their soul to open up a championship window, right? And, hey, don't blame them at all for doing that, for bringing in the reigning Finals MVP and a guy in Paul George who was a first-team All-NBA player at the time. Obviously, the price was steep, ended up being steeper than anybody could imagine. But they still haven't paid off that credit card bill. You're talking about pivoting from Kawhi Leonard. You're not done paying, right? And you're not done paying for the James Harden trade either, which is, again, trying to capitalize on having Kawhi as a part-time superstar. As a guy who plays 42% of the games. As a guy who's finished only 2 of 6 postseasons since he's been in a Clippers uniform. They are out their draft capital in the first round, either outright or via swaps in 26, 27, 28, 29. We'll see what happens at the conclusion of this NBA investigation. But you're talking about pivoting when you're still digging out of pain.
Yeah. I think the legacy of Kawhi in many ways, look, it was a huge gamble, obviously. And initially, after the elation of landing him and thinking about championship aspirations, there was also the fear of losing him because they knew what happened in San Antonio. NBA teams can be afraid of their superstars, and they knew how much of an investment it was. And I think the elements of fear and secrecy, giving way to heartbreak about his injuries, and then looking at Oklahoma City and knowing what they have there, it's a combination of a lot of emotions and what has been so far a failure.
Right. Well, because when you connect the dots, there are some ways in which you can say that these moves have directly led to a championship for Oklahoma City and perhaps one of the best chances we've seen at a dynasty since the Golden State Warriors. Again, this is complicated. There's a lot there. I encourage you all after the show to go check out Baxter's article. It's up right now on ESPN.com and get the full context here that we're talking about. Of course, we will continue. No repeat champions in over 7 seasons, but that didn't stop our experts here. They have the reigning champs coming in at number 1 because this summer, the Thunder, remember, they locked in their core, SGA, J-Dub, and Chet until the 2030-31 season. They also have up to 8 first-round picks in the next 3 drafts. So, Brian, the question is, how many championships is this team going to win in the next 3 years?
Yeah, so obviously this is an easy pick at number 1. The real question is, after this upcoming season, Malika, when Lou Dort and Isaiah Hartenstein both can be free agents, and the question is, can the team afford to keep this core together? But they're going to keep their stars together.
See how he just Euro sidestepped me on that question,
Hey,
Tim?
Wendy doesn't do predictions because he is
well, coming
scared.
in at number 2. Did you call him scared?
Scared.
Let's talk about the Rockets. Just acquired Kevin Durant this summer. He joins a core of Alperen Şengün, rising star Men Thompson. I'm actually going to go to you, Tim, on this one, not Shanae. Is there a chance we could see the Rockets leapfrog OKC in that number 1 spot in the next 3 years?
OKC is leaps and bounds over anybody else, but the Rockets have positioned themselves as the primary challenger. Here's a question, though. Will Kevin Durant be in Houston for all those 3 years?
Yes.
That extension ain't done yet.
Coming in at number 3 for the future power rankings, the New York Knicks. Their core of Brunson, Cat, OG, Bridges, remember, all under contract at least the next 3 seasons. So, Shanae, are they best set up in the East during these 3 years?
One thing I do know is it should not be new coach, same results. There's a lot of pressure in New York, but they're not new to that as well. I mean, look, if you look at the East, it's decimated by injuries. This is an opportunity for them to get back to where they just were, Eastern Conference Finals. But I do believe if they stay together and they address their depth, they will have a shot for the years to come.
I feel like I asked everyone a question. I don't know if anyone answered
Nope.
what I asked, but you know what? It's fine. Pau can host the next segment. All right, that's the top 3. The next 12, this is where it gets interesting. Did you see this, Shanae? The Cavs, the Clippers, the Warriors, the Magic, the Lakers, the Nuggets, and the Spurs.
Oh, wow.
Clippers.
They round out the top 10. This is the next 3 years, remember. One outlier, the Timberwolves. They've gone to 2 straight Western Conference Finals, and Rudy Gobert, he was on the Young Man in the 3 podcast, and he talked about being so close to reaching the finals. Take a listen.
I mean, biggest perspective is that we were right there.
Yeah.
You know, so obviously we were right a step below the NBA Finals for 2 years in a row. So it's frustrating because that doesn't happen, you know, in a career. It's not something that happens all the time. But at the same time, it shows that we've been able to do it over and over, and that we're creating something special. And I think that's really what it's about for us, is that, you know, what do we need to really be able to take that next step?
It's tough to be sort of knocking on the door right there and 2 years in a row have the same result, getting bounced in the conference finals when you're so close. You've been there. How do they take the next step?
Well, they gotta obviously, it's a mindset. I think you got to start off the season with the right mindset going into it. It's not just about, obviously, you want to get to the conference finals, but ultimately, you got to desire and act every single day like you're going to win the championship. And it starts with your top player. It starts with, obviously, with Anthony Edwards. And Ant, I love his confidence. I love his swagger. He can play like anybody out there, but he has to do it every single night, and he has to lead this team in a way that he carries everybody over. Obviously, they have a tough challenge, tough task. Great teams in the West. OKC, obviously, a step above. But they have great players. I love their defensive presence. I think Julius will continue to thrive. McDaniel is a great player. Dante is a great player coming off the bench. Let's see if the youth continues to develop in their team. Everybody has to contribute and chip in.
Look, we're talking about the Wolves taking the next step. They've taken massive steps for a franchise that have been out of the first round once before these last couple of years. But it's not a step. They got smoked in the conference finals. That was not a competitive series. The Oklahoma City Thunder are a roster full of ascending talent, including their MVP. I mean, this is not a step. It is a triple jump to be able to catch up to the Thunder for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Ant is an ascending talent. There's a lot of meat left on the bone for him, but let's not act like they're that close, because the Thunder are clearly a better franchise.
I wouldn't say that they're that far, though, because they have, as Pal listed, good pieces. It's about putting those pieces together in a way that works. And what I'll say is, you mentioned SGA. Ant has potential to be an MVP if we're talking about this future forecast of power teams, right? I think we're starting to see, and we all love Ant because he's like a little brother, the little brother that can actually beat you one-on-one. We've seen him take down titans of the game. He emulated Steph and led the NBA in most made threes. I think 320 made threes over the course of the season. He came in with that out-of-this-world athleticism. Next is the mid-range game. That he will help him unlock more aspects of his game. And that will take pressure off of everyone else. But I do believe that everyone has to raise their game because there were inconsistencies over the course of the season with their production. Nas, you wanted more from him in the postseason.
Right.
Julius had great spurts, but like you need that to be impactful in certain areas. So I think they have the potential, but they have to make these pieces work right, and it all depends on their development, and he's at the head of that.
Right, and what is it? What is the mentality that everybody cites, every player, over and over again? What's the mentality that everyone says?
Mamba mentality.
Mamba mentality. It's a good thing that we have Pau here to maybe give us a little bit of insight into whether or not Ant has that sort of mentality of taking that next step here.
Yeah, I mean, when I talked to him actually a couple years ago in the World Championships in Manila, he said he followed Kobe and he admired Kobe and the Mamba mentality. He has desire to be the best. He's still very young, but now he's also getting to that next step and stage of his career where he has to prove a little more and give a little more at all levels. Not just scoring, but let's do a little more on the defensive end. Let's do a little more leading and challenging and holding my teammates accountable and getting the best out of them on a daily basis, in practice, at games, all across. So that's what I'm expecting. That's what I want to see from Ant.
Sometimes you need to have a little bit of that heartbreak. They've had it in back-to-back years in very, very similar ways. And so can they use that with this roster as presently constructed to push Oklahoma season in Milwaukee? And coming off a bronze at Eurobasket this weekend, here he is with his brothers, Kostas and Thanasis. I love this. It's all about family, donning their FIBA medals together. Can you imagine? And in an NBA culture, and even on the show, sometimes we can be guilty of maybe valuing championships, I think, above everything else. But take a listen to how meaningful a third-place finish was to Giannis on the world stage.
This, for me, it's almost like a relief. A relief because I did it for the country, I did it for myself, I did it for my family, and finally, I did it. This is one of the biggest probably accomplishments that I've ever accomplished as an athlete. I know I've won an NBA championship, but there's no feeling like representing your national team and representing 12 million people that breathe and live this national team. So this is probably the greatest accomplishment I've accomplished so far in my life.
Brian Windhorst covers international hoops for us and joins us for this conversation. But, Pau, you played on this stage, and so I'm going to start with you here. I think a lot of people listen to that and say, wait, but third, that's not first, and Giannis has done that in the NBA. So can you just help us understand why this means so much to Giannis?
Yeah, I love his emotion. I love how much he loves his country, the pride in it, the dedication and commitment that he has to his national team. It's something special to play for your country, something special to represent your country, your people, your fans, everywhere and anywhere you go, but especially when you play for your national team. And, to me, I always took a lot of pride in playing for Spain. A lot of people said that at my game, there was a different Pau playing for Spain than he was for the NBA.
Was there? Did you think there was a different
I don't know. I think there was definitely an added thing to it.
Yeah.
There was definitely something, a little extra edge that when I played for Spain, there was a unique feeling that I would bring to the equation. Not that I didn't love playing for every and each of the NBA teams that I played for, but playing for your country is just something that it's hard to compare.
And it's not just you, right? I mean, you were kind of sharing with us before the show, like you even saw that from a Tony Parker and other players too. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, and so it kind of hit home in 2007. We were hosting the European Championship in Madrid, and Tony came to me before a big game that they had to play. And he had won already, I think, 2 or 3 NBA championships at that point. And he comes to me and he's like, Pau, I would trade an NBA championship for a medal or for a gold with my national team. He finally got it in 2013, and I know how much that means to him and his family. But that's how it means. That's what it means to a lot of international players to play for the country and achieve that success for their fans.
And I think that says so much, Brian, that you're talking about a multi-time NBA champions who still say, no, I would trade this if I could represent my team on that stage.
What I remember in 2006 outside Tokyo when Spain and Pau won the World Championship, he had broken his foot in the semifinals, and he was in a walking boot and I think crutches, Pau. I don't remember exactly, but what I do remember is after the game was over, which you beat Greece, by the way, you ran out and jumped on the pile in the center of the court. And I can only imagine Jerry West going, my God, Pau, what are you doing? Protect that foot. We haven't done surgery yet. But to bring this back to Giannis, I just want to say, the last couple of years have been extremely disappointing with the Bucks, but it's not all about that for somebody at that level. Last year, Giannis led the Greeks to qualifying for the Olympics, and then in kind of a Hail Mary, they made it out of the pool play round. And Giannis was so emotional about just that achievement, and that built on this achievement where with his brothers, he was able to get this medal in a huge step for Greece. And being with the brothers is important, not just for your country, but for your family. And playing international basketball is hard for Giannis. The way the teams can set their defenses and the way they can just play it in the lane, it's not set up for him to be successful. successful. He has to change his game to do it. You got to want to do it, and he's got a great reward for the last 2 summers.
And this is why Giannis will be an all-time great, and we're seeing it happen in real time because, we have the privilege of watching him play, in person. He does not take a possession off. Every game is a championship game to him. Every game has meaning. It's almost like he's writing a story, understanding that each chapter has its own value. And I think as professionals, we go in, when we're young, we say we want to be an all-star, we want to be an MVP. But soon you find out that nothing matters unless you win. Your goal is to win a championship professionally, NBA, WNBA, and your goal is to win an Olympic gold. And we understand that there are steps to getting there, but you value each step. And I think Giannis has done that on top of being someone that really cares about his heritage. You see it in his name, Giannis Hugo Antetokounmpo. But then also doing it alongside your siblings is just different. You and I can relate to that.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Doing it alongside your brothers as a family moment, knowing what that has meant, the full circle nature, and being on the mountaintop, knowing that the medal is not guaranteed, nothing gets better.
No. What's the TV equivalent that Kendra and I can strive for?
Hosting a show together.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe we'll strive towards that. But when we're talking about the world stage, of course, the natural next question, especially because we're sitting here in Los Angeles, is to look towards the 2028 Olympics. And a lot of the conversation right now is, has the rest of the world caught up with the United States? And when you look at the U.S. and the roster, the last 5 gold medals they have won, Kevin Durant was a part of the last 4, and he may actually have his eyes on a 5th. Take a listen.
I always advise young players that get a chance to play for their country to go do it. It's just an incredible thing.
Okay, so I assume you want to play in 28?
Yeah, if I'm still me, I don't want the gift of the veteran, come sit on the end of the bench.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. AJ, nothing but a number, but for those of you who have to put birthdays in their Google calendars like I do, KD, he's going to be a few months shy of his 40th birthday, roughly the same age as LeBron was during the 2024 Olympics. So it's not crazy to think that he could play in Los Angeles. Do you think, Pau, that Team USA will still be the favorites when that comes around?
I think they'll still be the favorites just because they are the current gold medalist, and they earned that for the last few Olympic Games. It was a fantastic performance that they did in Paris in 2024. Those semifinals and finals will go down as some of the most epic Olympic Games ever. And why not? Well, I think KD has earned that right to be on that team if he so chooses to. I played my 5th Olympics at 41. I was 41 when I played in Tokyo.
Did it feel different? Did it hit different?
It hit different. Sure, it was different. Yeah, but so it's possible, and so yeah, it'd be great to see who's going to be in the roster and who's not. But definitely the world will be ready.
Brian, one word: world or the field in 2028.
You mean U.S. or the field?
Yeah.
I'm taking the U.S. on home. I'm taking the U.S. on home soil. But the answer about the world catching up, yes, the world is caught up, and that's not an insult to the U.S. That's a credit to the rest of the world.
I think that was like 37 words, but
sprain. I sprained my MCL basically, but I think that what I felt in that moment scared me more than anything. And I'm very happy to have gotten my MRI results back and know that it's something that I can play through depending on how much pain I want to be in.
I think all fans are relieved to hear that as we say hello to our Holly Rowe, who's been with the Liberty all day. And Holly, we know that sometimes medical staff, right, they have to protect players from themselves maybe a little bit here. So what advice is Stewie weighing as she tries to play tonight?
Well, first and foremost, Stewie is stubborn, and she is absolutely adamant that she is playing. She did say that she was going to take a nap and see how she wakes up. She went through everything at shoot-around today, but she is being smart about this injury. She showed the imaging to 2 separate doctors, and they have told her that structurally the knee looks fine. Of course, there is always a risk for re-injury. Keep in mind, she injured the right knee, had a procedure in April, came back, got a bone bruise midway through the season that kept her out for a while. So this is the other knee, the left knee. So something she's got to be conscientious of. But if you know Stewie, you know she would rather lay down and die than not play in this game today. So I do expect her to play. And why that's important, Malika, her defensive presence. If Stewie scores, that would be a bonus today. But what she does defensively, they used her as a rover, as a defensive back. She is all over the floor in these defensive situations with her length, getting tips, getting rebounds, tipping balls out. So I think the biggest issue right now is just having Stewie on the floor changes how Phoenix has to guard her and how Phoenix gets guarded. So her presence will be big. She did tell me that it will be a pain tolerance. She said she's going to look into what she can do to minimize the pain, but as of now, it will be as tolerated with that knee injury.
Stubborn in all of the best ways. That's what you need in the playoffs. Holly Rowe, thank you so very much for your time here on NBA Today. And you heard her, despite having 2 games to win 1 and having a sprained MCL, Brianna Stewart saying that she is going to play. She wants to be out there with her team. So, Pau, what would you do in this situation?
Yeah, obviously I would definitely play. You give the green light to any basketball player or any professional athlete to play, and the kind of reassurance that they're not going to put themselves at a huge risk. They're going to be out there and play, especially at a critical point of the season as the playoffs are. So I'm not surprised. I'm glad that she was thorough and she got second opinions too, and not fully just trusted the team doctor in this case, which I'm sure is great. But you always want to kind of like fact check and get a second opinion. So I look forward. Brianna's going to, I'm sure, just her presence on the court. Yeah. Just as Holly was saying, defensively, but also offensively. She's a huge threat. And this type of player being at 50, 60%, they're better than most players. They're 100%.
This is why I love working with Powell, because he knows what he's talking about. He's come to so many WNBA games. He knows these players inside out. You're a mentor to many as well. And when I think about Stewie, you're going to have to guard her whether or not she's 100%. And I do think the defense is critical. I mean, I was just getting flashbacks. My last game as a collegiate player, Stewie like swatted me from the help side. So like that's what she's known for. So she is still being Stewie and being stubborn in the best way, as you said.
Stubborn in the absolute best way. And here's what I know. We get a pair of game 2s tonight. And if they are anything like the game 2s that we got last night, oh, we are in for a treat. Sinead was actually a game time decision for our show today because she was still recovering from that finish here in Seattle. Let's pick this one up, Sinead. The Aces in the Storm. This is game 2 of the first round. 7 minutes to play. Aces up 10. Asia Wilson, she's just so dominant getting that jumper.
She's extremely dominant. I love how we talk about mid-range. People think guard. She has made that her professional duty to knock it down for the post. But here's the key moment, Malika.
When Dominique Malonga checks in, the Vegas Aces, look at this, over 97% chance to win this game. But look at the impact that she makes as Skylar Diggins goes up for the 3 there.
Seattle says, hold my beer, because she is one of those things that you cannot predict. Look at how she attracts so many players. 3 right here, kicks it over to the corner. Wheezy, baby. That's Weezy, knocks down the 3, and she's the emotional catalyst for the team. Oh, did I see something I shouldn't have seen?
That was the way that you were running around the studio yesterday here. Diggins, another 3. Check that. That's an 11-4 run here for the Storm. Asia Wilson, this is a shot she usually makes. Critical play right here for the rookie Dominique Malonga.
A huge swing. Honestly, a 4-point swing, because Dominique, her 6'6" frame can allow her to contest, but then when she runs like that, she's hard to guard.
I was yelling, go up strong with that when we were watching live. Just a miscommunication on the ATO here, pal.
Yeah, tough angle, tough turnover there. Great play. She was pretty open. It was a tough pass there to make.
Would you have fouled here? 3-point difference, 3-second difference between game and shot clock.
I wouldn't have. I mean, if the ball is caught by a player who has a low percentage shooter from the free throw line, you would. But in this case, with Skylar having the ball in her hands, I wouldn't have fouled it, and she made it. Big shot.
Great defense, too, there.
He said you go for the stop. I said, well, they didn't get the stop. So it's a 16-4 run, Sinead, but one more chance here for the Las Vegas Aces. This one looked good, leaving her hand.
It really did, and she was hot, especially in the first half. There was a little sauce in the game, but hey, you know what? They fought for it, and they earned it.
A well-deserved win here for the Seattle Storm. This is a live look at Sinead. The moment that Seattle sealed this game. And now we are headed to a game 3. Here's Skylar Diggins after the game.
For us, it was coming out and showing that we weren't scared to play against them. I mean, you can respect a team of that caliber who's been great all year, who's been great for very many years, and not fear them. And I thought in the first game we played hesitant. But we know this team is tough to beat one time, and we have to beat them again. But we bought ourselves another 40 minutes tonight.
It's a shame. I feel like we let that one go. In our poor, soft defense down the stretch. Just soft. Our hands are down. We were not disruptive. We weren't even guarding. They were shooting. We were 8 feet off of them. No, it's trash garbage.
So Becky not mincing her words here, but the Aces, they led by as many as 14 points late in the third before blowing their largest lead in a playoff game since moving to Las Vegas in 2018. So Shanae, what was the catalyst for this turnaround? I'm going to focus on Seattle's side in your eyes.
I know this is Asia's world and we're all living in it, but we're seeing the future in real time with Dominique Malonga, a 19-year-old French Cameroonian that can dunk. She almost did that if there wasn't a clear path call. Someone that has been likened her upside to Victor Wembanyama. She is 19 years young, and she's playing in the biggest games ever. And I know that there's some learning curves because if you see this tape, game one, she was kind of a little bit of a deer in headlights. Here, Asia had her way. She leads the league in blocks. If you see this right here, she makes a move. I think she started off like 1 for 8 from the field. Asia swatted that. But the good thing, and oh yeah, she also stared it down. The good thing, though, is when you're so young, sometimes you just don't know no better. Right? So she's just playing, and she's learning on the fly. She was not afraid. She's someone who has competed against the best of the best internationally with France, alongside her teammate and Gabby Williams. She contests on both ends. She is someone that has great touch. Here you see she attracts a mass. She had 11 and 10. She had a double-double. She had a great post-All-Star second half of the season. She finds a shooter in Eweezy in the corner just based off of her basketball IQ playing for so long with the best. So watch Dominique Malonga here. This is huge. You have to bring, double teams to Asia? Maybe not. That's been the X factor here. So everyone can stay home and make sure everyone else does not score like Jackie Young, like Chelsea Gray. So if you're looking at Seattle having a chance, which is still a long shot, it will be on the backs of a 19-year-old, which is wild because I think there's been only 4 others in the WNBA history, teenagers that have scored in the postseason. So look at the difference. The final 6, her impact was tremendously felt.
Yes, extraordinary performance by Dominique. You see that sequence where she contests the shots and she runs the break and scores and 1-2 finish. She's very, very, very impressive. But she better be ready for game 3 because Asia is coming, I tell you. And I remember how he would used to motivate me when they would hype up a young player, and just like any other great player probably has in the past, and where she should be.
It's not just Dom. Seattle knows they all coming from.
Yeah, they're all coming.
Especially the way that Becky was talking after the game, saying, not mincing her words, saying we need to be ready for this game 3.
Hey, look, I'm happy.
Someone might try to run through somebody's chest. Yeah. It happens sometimes. The Storm, they weren't the only team, though, to stave off elimination last night. We had such great games, pal, because despite all of the injuries, the Indiana Fever, they just won't break here. We talked about Aaliyah Ball. What a sequence for the Fever. They go on to win this one 77-60, really wire to wire. They were in control. So here's a look at the updated playoff bracket with the Dream and Fever Aces Storm now set for a deciding game 3 on Thursday, which means, yes, Shanae, you and I will be here once again all day tomorrow, sis. Now to some breaking news out of the W. Golden State Valkyries head coach Natalie Nakase has been named the coach of the year. Congratulations. This is the first time in WNBA history an expansion team coach wins Coach of the Year in its inaugural season. So really, really impressive there. Not just saying that because I'm from the Bay, but the Valkyries, they are in